welcome to the most excellent 80s movie podcast on the most excellent podcast network. It's the podcast where a filmmaker, a comedian, and an actor/brother brave their way through the jungle of the 80s movies we love, hate, hate to love, and love to hate. And you better be careful, or we might just pop an arrow right into your head and make everything explode. This is episode 13, Rambo, First Blood, Part 2. Could we add more to that? Could we make that a more complicated name, I think? Our movie selection from 1985.
Did not expect a woman, no.
We better go.
Go to river. How come you so late?
Got hung up.
This isn't the trailer. What the hell is this?
We're just watching the movie. We'll get back to you in 90 minutes.
What the hell?
Best scene in Rambo. What?
I was like, why would they have so much of him just staring? Okay, here we go. This is the trailer.
Joined Army 6 June 69. Accepted Special Forces. Helicopter and language qualified. Expert in light weapons and guerrilla warfare. Sylvester Stallone is back as Rambo. Rambo's the best combat vet I've ever seen. His mission, to locate American POWs in Vietnam. Think you'll find someone? POWs? Doubtful. His orders, not to engage the enemy. He's got 36 hours to complete the mission and reach the extraction point. We're going down. You're not going anywhere. I'm telling you to abort. Double-crossed and left behind enemy lines. You're the one who's making the mistake. Yeah, what mistake? Rambo. And now, he's getting out any way he can. Rambo. What most people call hell, he calls home. No man, no law, no war can stop him. Sylvester Stallone is back as Rambo. First Blood, Part 2.
No trailer can contain him.
Oh my god. All right, so what is everyone's history with having seen this movie?
Oh, so we've got a guest here.
Oh, of course, yes. Duh, the actor/brother is our guest, Mr. Logan Blackwell.
Sometimes I actor, sometimes I brother.
Yeah, so Logan and I, Logan, he acts in the web series Voyage Trekkers and a bunch of our other stuff. We started making movies together when we were wee lads, and we saw this movie together on the same sleepover that we saw Nightmare on Elm Street.
That was such an important experience for both of you.
And we saw Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So when that comes around... So yeah, it was a very traumatic evening and morning.
Are you still friends with whoever that person?
No. Well, one goes our separate ways. But yeah, so it was. I mean, I've definitely seen it since I was 11. But it was just. It's still kind of. It's wrapped around my 11-year-old brain. Like, oh my god, this part is so violent. Oh my god, this part is so epic. And then this time around, I couldn't just like get out of my head. It's like, this was not filmed in Asia at all. This was filmed in Mexico, and I couldn't get past that.
I got past it. I'm sorry.
Okay, see, and I have to confess, I have never seen this movie. I have only seen the parody versions of it. And
UHF
I can see
Hot Shots.
UHF, exactly,
Yeah.
Hot Shots. But the UHF parody is so accurate. But I think I could have done this podcast having just seen that.
Rocky and Rambo. So this is our double feature of Stallone. They've just become so like pop culturally iconic that you don't need to have ever seen them just to know like what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, truly, I see it's
You
stamped
only need
on
to
other
have seen
movies.
UHF
Exactly.
and Hot Shots.
And like every other action movie that exists after this going forward. You guys have brought some fun
Oh my God.
stuff.
So Logan, what's your history with Rambo? Because there's more than just having seen it at a sleepover. So Logan's 2 years younger than I, so he was 9 at the time, much more impressionable. I think so. These are putting words in his mouth, and he's making faces. But he was definitely more upset by Nightmare on Elm Street, but definitely more into Rambo.
I mean, as much as I remember, we put that on. I had no idea why it had such a lengthy title, but otherwise, I mean, that may have been my first R-rated movie. I'm not really sure, but I talked about how I was just endlessly traumatized for months with Nightmare on Elm Street, but Rambo, I probably just thought, like, this is awesome. And they blew up some guy with an arrow. That's cool. I wasn't like, oh my God, is that going to happen to me? Or, whatever.
Was that your introduction into leeches?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Ugh. God, that was so gross.
Yeah, and people being electrified by torture devices and things like that. Those are some of the things I remember as a kid.
What if Freddy Krueger had access to that kind of technology?
He could already suck you into a bed. I mean, he already had plenty to work with, really. Just all
That's true.
put his tongue through a phone and all that. And
I love it. So what did you bring?
oh, I bought Rambo, the novel, and this would sound like some horrible, piece of pop culture trash that, you stumble across. But this was Rambo, the franchise, started as a book, and when the Vietnam War was still happening, and so they probably like conscripted the guy who originally wrote it and said, like, hey, write the book for the new movie, and he did that for the third one as well. And like objectively speaking, they're like as good or better than the movies and stuff. They're more accurate. You can tell he prides himself as a writer. I mean, they'll go into stuff like when Rambo is his parachute stuck on the helicopter. I mean, they more or less say that he would have died. He would have just died, and then they go into why that would have happened. And of course, he can't just kill him right then. So then he has to transition out of it fairly quickly, like once he gets his knife out and all that. But it's like it's interesting. Yeah, but it's interesting just going into what would be sort of the more realistic version of some of these things that So yeah, I enjoyed the novel, and then Nathan has something.
Oh yeah, so these, by the way, not to jump too far ahead, these are both of our deep cut recommendations.
Oh, wonderful.
So what I brought was Rambo the cartoon.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
There's a cartoon?
yeah,
Who is the audience for that? You.
that's yeah,
The Blackwell.
yeah, no, well, that's okay. So I was not the audience for that. This is something that we later picked up in life.
Okay.
But yeah, so it ran from 1986 to 1986.
Oh my God.
And there are 63 episodes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So so this is kind of, I guess, it's kind of the theme of my response is just kind of being observant of like, and I think most people think this is not like any original idea of just how cartoon Rambo has become. I mean, it's like the First Blood was a drama, like, so this is Rambo First Blood Part 2. First Blood was kind of a drama about like what happens if you train a killer, in this case in Vietnam, and he comes home and he can't switch that off. And so Sylvester Stallone it's definitely kind of an action-y kind of like, man hunting man kind of thing, but it's also kind of a drama. And then Rambo goes full cartoon, or at least like 80% cartoon, and then by the time we get to Rambo 3, then he's like the legendary epic, hero cartoon action violence thing. And so like it's just totally ridiculous to have the Rambo cartoon, which is right here, and there's an episode where he saves Christmas.
What?
With his buddies Turbo and Cat, master of disguise.
I think that is so brilliant.
Yes.
I
You can borrow these if you want.
I think that my son would really be obsessed with them.
Yeah.
I did not let him watch Rambo.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. So, it's like his iconic thing is like he's got the little Buddha around his neck and he's got the red headband.
Mm-hmm.
He's got it here. And that's both off of the dead girl.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Which, okay,
Kids don't get it all. They just say, oh my God, that looks cool.
Yeah, they don't care. Did he know her before, or was that he just met her?
No, he practically killed her when they first met.
Yeah. But like,
so Logan's got a great little theory going on here that gave the movie a lot of texture and backstory.
Please.
And it's based off of the book, where basically you said he was drafted straight out of Vietnam.
Well, they go into, they go into a lot with Rambo, maybe even to a fault. They just say that it was a different culture in in the 1960s, and so he had just been a virgin, and then he went into the army, and so just this whole time he's just never been with a woman ever. So like when she gets gunned down, that's like especially tragic for him.
Oh, because he was so close.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Brand new subtext, isn't that great?
Yeah. Because that I thought was such a surprising part of the movie, where they're suddenly in love.
Yeah.
And when how long have they known each other? Like a day? Am I wrong?
Has it been a full day?
I don't.
I think so.
I think the events of this movie take place over an afternoon.
Yeah.
I think.
It was a long afternoon.
Yeah.
When Rambo, like Rocky, gets a lot done in a day. God, yeah, this was a lot to take in.
Yeah.
It really was. And yet it was so quiet. The movie was just, there wasn't a lot of talking. And then all of a sudden...
He's even more silent and wordless than Rocky. Like Rocky is actually talkative.
Yeah. He's downright chatty.
Downright chatty. He's a little dim, but he's downright chatty.
Mm-hmm.
And Rambo is just a man of he's kind of like, the whole idea of like he's never really matured as an adult except as like a killing machine.
Right. Yeah, and so he speaks only in war cliches, like I'm alive, so it's alive, what you call hell I call home. He's not Southern. My Rambo impression is not spot on. But I think it really, to me, made me feel like Sylvester Stallone is an actor. Like, he's an actor. He's playing two characters at least who are different,
So it's interesting. So I was looking at his filmography, and he did a lot of weird different roles, but he never became he had Rocky and so this came out the same year that Rocky 4 came out. They came out the same year. But he really didn't have where he was playing these other action heroes like Cobra or Demolition Man or I
love Demolition Man.
Jeez. But he was doing a couple of these weird little character bits, but he was never big movie star level of doing the A-list parts until he kind of had a second breakthrough character. He was already huge with Rocky, but once he had Rambo with his second one and he had two franchises, then suddenly he became A-list. And he was getting these other kind of bigger parts, it seems.
Okay.
It's because he was just Rocky. Mm-hmm. And then, but once he had Rocky and Rambo, it's oh, okay.
Well, and I think that was kind of my experience too, is that it's so easy to just buy that Sylvester Stallone is Rocky, that he is that guy, and he's just kind of dumb and really is into montages, and that's who he is. And then you see this, and you're like, oh no, okay, he can do at least one other thing.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I feel like having seen this now, I can appreciate him in a different way. It's still not a lot.
Not an enjoyable.
I enjoyed watching this movie. Like, I really did. And this is not necessarily something I'm going to throw on in the background when I'm, running on the treadmill. But I'm glad I saw it. I enjoyed the hell out of watching it on the treadmill the first time.
Yeah.
It was really fun and crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy.
It's like they're inventing 80s physics in this movie.
Yes.
Like, the degree of which things can explode, it is so variable.
Okay, so the bit yes, like, how does a waterfall explode? Just how does a waterfall explode? It's made of rock and water. That shouldn't happen. But, like, the parody in Weird Al is that someone is standing in front of him just shooting bullet after bullet after bullet at him, and he's, like, 4 feet away. But that literally happens in this movie in a way which the parody doesn't even, like, heighten it. And he's, like, knocking his bow and shooting arrows.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, these explosive arrows, which he slowly, sort of, like, puts on and then fires, and then like 100 gallons of gasoline just goes whoosh wherever it hits. Yeah.
So I did read, and I bet Logan knows the real truth, but so they shot this in Mexico, right? And most of the people who are the bad guys aren't actors.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was the thing that threw me again. It's like I had recognized maybe about 3 or 4 people as Chinese actors, like from movies like Big Trouble in Little China. It's like, oh yeah, that guy's totally Chinese, but with no accent, like 100% American. They flew down from LA, like, and the whole, like, and then there was just a couple of like strategic Vietnamese guys that they threw in there. But it was like, oh yeah, these are total like American character actors that I've seen on like TV shows.
Well, it's just the magic of movie making. Like, you're Vietnamese for the next 90 minutes.
I love it. I don't even know where to jump in. It's so hard to pick a point.
So, James Cameron wrote the screenplay, and then Stallone then I think made a pass at it. And from what I understand, what James Cameron said is that, Stallone kind of then put in all the politics of like the bureaucrats versus like the man, bureaucracy versus the human component, but also kind of like it. Logan had kind of talked about something interesting when we were watching it, how there was at this point in time there was kind of a movement saying like, there's people left behind in Vietnam, like it's a truth, and I'm gonna go save him. Like there was this whole thing about people absolutely certain that there's people still there, and I don't know if we ever really had any kind of answer. Maybe not, but there was definitely like kind of a movement of saying, they're there and we got to go get them.
Well, if you can just send this one guy, I mean, it seems like just send him.
Yeah.
Just send Rambo. He kind of gets the job done, right?
I mean, we always, like every war since Vietnam, there's always this talk of like, well, is this war going to be worth it, all this stuff. And if you just send like, okay, well, the budget for this next war will be like the cost of a Bowie knife, and we just send this one guy, and it's like, okay, that's fine. Okay, well, go fight Syria and Iran and all that if you want.
Give him 3 of those.
They'll cost like $200.
Yeah, but okay, so that was an interesting point of view of like this, 80s war machine, which like this movie I can't tell if like it reminded me of every other 80s movie or if every other 80s movie reminded me of this, because the beginning where he's like in a prison where it's like a rock quarry. Is that where I get the gravel for my driveway? Is that that's like the beginning of Total Recall. Am I wrong? Am I thinking of the wrong Arnold Schwarzenegger movie?
No.
Running Man?
Probably both.
Okay.
It's definitely in Total Recall. And then there was a prison in Running Man where your head blows up if you.
Right. But like,
if you do a good job.
The place where you're making big rocks into smaller rocks.
Right.
Why was he there?
Well, I think that was seen as like the ultimate punishment, like a labor camp.
Okay. Where the labor is make gravel.
Yes. Big rocks must be smaller rocks.
Does the novel say anything about where that's getting exported?
What's your stance on rocks?
I don't think it talks about that, but Mom has a yard like that, front yard and backyard. There's a bunch of rocks. That's basically
Zero escaping, yeah.
Basically from Rambo.
It's an Arizona thing, where Rambo is from.
Rambo's from Arizona?
Yeah, he's from Bowie, Arizona, which is like just east of Wilcox.
Did they say that in the movie?
They did.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So at the end of like the fourth Rambo movie, all of them, he finally just goes home and checks his mail and so on. And
I do think is that a real place though?
It is.
Do they have
a
house
Google's
that's Rambo's house?
Right, dedication. Like in Philadelphia where they've got Rocky, there's got to be a Rambo. Well, road trip, guys.
Oh my God, yes, I'm in. Well, how long can that take? Like an afternoon?
2.5,
It'll take as long as it took Rambo to free all the POWs.
It's the least we can do as Americans.
It is. And then like all the other stuff, like that room full of computers is just like, is so Escape from New York. It's so everything. And like that sleazy guy.
Yeah. The computer determined he was one of 3 people who was able to pull off this mission.
Who are the other 2 guys?
Yeah.
And how are they doing?
Snake Plissken.
Yeah, I think so. Don't you think?
Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
Missing in action.
But he had been missing in action.
Oh, okay.
It's those 3 guys. And they're just like these sleazy 80s guys where if you don't trust anyone with that haircut, I think.
The kind of like the buttoned up white shirt with rolled up to your elbows and with a cigar.
Which also reminded me of Airplane, of him just being like, I picked the wrong day to quit amphetamine. Oh my God. I don't know.
Stallone's such an unlikely A-list actor, isn't he? Like, he's such an unlikely movie star. Like,
yeah,
he really seems like a character actor who broke through. Like, Rocky was kind of his thing, and he's very much, like this New Jersey man on the street kind of guy who kind of busted through the New Jersey glass ceiling and became like an A-lister.
I'll tell you what, though. Like, we talked a little bit about Kurt Russell and his dad bod in some of the movies that we've watched.
Holy smokes.
This is the opposite of that, because there are so many loving shots of his oiled up muscles.
He created, like, being shredded, like, in a movie.
Everyone should be like, enough, Sylvester Stallone. We get it. Yeah. Like, him and Arnold Schwarzenegger are just, like, at that level where, like, we have to just look at his rippling muscles and, like, the veins in his arms.
Yeah, and they were. It's interesting because they're so different also. Like, Stallone is like 5'6" or something, but he is just. It's just like you see everything. It's super shredded, but yet Schwarzenegger is bulk. He's big. Like, I mean, he's not. He's like maybe 6'1", but I mean, he's giant in terms of muscles. It's like a different kind of body style. Would you agree, Logan?
Yeah. So in the cartoon, when they have that montage of him, like tying his shoes and all that, and he looks real muscular and all that. So that's in every episode of the cartoon. It's like it's at the beginning.
Yeah, I feel like this movie like created like the tooling up montage where it's like lacing the boots and putting the knife in and cocking the gun and that was like lovingly done in like Hot Fuzz, but like in other movies where they're just like cocking the guns.
Wearing a Hot Fuzz t-shirt.
Yes. but yeah, so the cartoon, like Logan was saying.
Okay, so in the cartoon, like halfway through, they've already had him oiled up and getting ready at the very beginning, just as the opening sequence, but like halfway through, when it's like, okay, I've got to suddenly do the rescue mission or whatever, then they'll do the montage again. And in fact, in the episode where he saves Christmas, he's doing all that bare-chested. I mean, he's like, it's total blizzard outside, everything.
He's hanging outside a helicopter.
Yeah, he's hanging out.
No shirt.
Yeah, like there'll be times, I think there are a couple times just in that episode where he falls like hundreds of feet, and it's just kind of like, oh, I'm okay now, or, something like that. And
is there ever a moment, because it is a cartoon, where he's like...
Right. It's so
getting
weird.
tooled up, and he's like, "And here's how you tie your shoes, kids. You make 2 bunny ears."
No, there wasn't like that G.I. Joe like trying to teach anybody.
Yeah, it's so weird with like, I could understand like some rated R properties being transitioned to kids or whatever, but like Rambo is so political, and that it's like RoboCop too. Was there a RoboCop cartoon, or there was definitely RoboCop toys, but that was also kind of like so adult too. With like the whole idea about, the corporations controlling people and things like that.
Well, but that's where like the 80s, this is sort of where that toyification of these R-rated things is born.
Yeah, where like Reagan allowed commercials to be longer than a half hour. And so all these like Transformers and G.I. Joe and Masters of the Universe, like TV shows were effectively commercials.
Yes. And then you get something like Rambo being turned into a cartoon so that they could basically, sell toys and things. But I think that's maybe the origin story of like trying to get to the parents and the kids at the same time, which now in 2018 has been perfected with the likes of the Avengers and things like that.
Yeah, what you do is you just dial it into the middle now,
And I'll tell you what, it works. So what if you had to pick a moment that
how many of us are wearing a pop culture t-shirt?
All of us? All of the above. So Logan, like if you had to pick one thing from this movie that you want to talk about right now here with us, what would it be?
I don't know. I didn't take notes. You all took such loving notes. I mean,
my notes are like a beat poem.
Yeah. I mean, Brian and I were like,
that's the third Blackwell, the youngest.
We were just like totally obsessed with Rambo. Even just 10 years ago, we saw all the films again. We watched all the cartoon episodes. I'm surprised we did not go
all
to
63.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm surprised we didn't go to Bowie, Arizona.
I am very surprised that why are we not right now?
Probably because we didn't think there was going to be like, I don't know, a very particular thing to do there. It's not, I mean, you don't, I mean, like, you're there and there's just like people walking around. It's like, hey, Rambo, like some kind of. Are you familiar yet with your own?
With your own history?
No, with we just saw the lights come on here.
No, it's haunted.
Okay. We probably just thought that, like, even if we were just like trying to, like do some head nod with people, like, hey, Rambo lives here, and they'd just be like, what are you talking about? Or I don't know, just something like that. Or we saw the latest Rambo movie. We saw it at like one of those midnight showings. I think that's the last time I've done one of those. I think all of us, we read the freaking books. I mean, we just went nuts on it. I'm not entirely sure why we did all that, but I mean, I saw the film just yesterday with Nathan. I was worried that it'd be, movies show their age after a while. They're like, there's all the CGI now, or just there's different filmmaking nowadays. I thought it'd be like maybe slightly wincing when I saw it or something. I mean, I saw Lethal Weapon 2 like last year, and I was like, this is like a low budget film or something. Where's the CGI? There's just, they blow up someone while they're diving from their pool. That's just stupid, or something. But no, I thought this was all. I was enjoying it while I was watching. It was a very snappy film, and
It is.
We were watching Karate Kid, and that's it's a great film, but it's like 2 hours. It's 90 minutes.
We've been revisiting the Karate Kid movies without a podcast.
Yeah.
Why would you do anything if you're not going to podcast?
And that was slightly slow, but this one was just going. Even when they're doing the stuff that, like, Sylvester Stallone is not obviously, dangling from a helicopter for his life, but they're just cutting so fast that you don't have time to really be like, oh, that's fake, and whatever. And there's. So I was enjoying it, and they're just blowing up so many things. You don't have time to think about like special effects today versus then or whatever. And
well, because it's the pyro budget is insane. Like everything explodes. Everything explodes. So, but what if you did get to Bowie, Arizona, and everybody there had a red headband? Like,
oh yeah.
It's cultural.
Yeah, they walk around with their red headband on. They're just waiting to take pictures.
Yeah.
I think that needs to be the next Blackwell family had.
That'd be great. Like Main Street, there's two rival Rambo, like cosplayers who are taking photos like on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah, they just have a little jungle that they made that you can go take pictures. I think I'm certain that this exists.
That would be amazing.
And if it doesn't, we should make it.
Yeah.
But yeah. This is just a snapshot of me looking at the top of one of my pages of notes. Expendable, knife in the heart, cough cough, betrayal, boat torn to shreds, bazooka, mud crawl. That's what my notes are. Like, it's like a Vipo.
It's like a haiku.
Yeah, I did write a haiku. Are you ready for my haiku?
Okay.
Blinking screens, map, surprise, arrow in the head, expendable. No, that's my haiku. Oh my god. Yeah, everything explodes. Everything. The leaves, the water, it all explodes. But like sarcastic me, just to jump to the end of the movie, he just walks away into the desert. Yeah. And I just
desert of Vietnam.
Yeah. He just wanders off. There's nothing on the horizon at all. He just wanders away. And like, I love the idea that he would have to then jog back and be like, actually, can I get a ride?
Wait.
I just did that for effect.
Yeah.
I would actually
with
like a
the
ride.
worst like ending song of any movie. I was like, what is this? Is this Frank Stallone? And I had to go through the whole credits, and it was Frank Stallone.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Peace
Boo.
in our life. There is peace in our life.
Boo.
Yeah.
Boo, boo, boo. All right. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you...
There's also there's Rambo video games, too.
Okay, I think I've played the video game. It's like a 8-bit situation.
There's like a Nintendo. What else is there? There's more than one, isn't there?
There was something for Sega, and there was like a huge Nintendo Sega divide at the time, so I didn't like look into it. So. Mm-hmm. And then there's an arcade game. There used to be at Dave & Buster's or one of those places, GameWorks. And
really?
stuff. So I played, yeah, I mean that was like pretty recent as far as arcade stuff goes, and I imagine I played that a little, but that was all.
They're
well and
making
good.
a new Rambo. Is that right?
I really hope not. Actually, when you brought up the word expendable, it made me immediately think, and it probably made Stallone think, like that's where the Expendables franchise, and like I love that he has that franchise. Not that I like the movies at all, but it's just that like it keeps
him busy.
Yeah, it keeps him busy from making like Rambo 5, 6, 7. Because I heard one. I've always heard like he's going to make another one, and then it was only one time in between the 80s and now that actually happened. I mean, there'd be all this stuff like it's going to be about the environment or he's going to fight
the environment.
Or he's going to fight this unkillable forest monster, and I'm like, oh my god, thank god there's the Expendables movies, and he's just making that crap instead, and and.
But he blows up so much of the environment. Like Rambo. Let's see. I'm gonna Google Rambo reboot because I'm pretty sure there is one. 2018 Rambo reboot. Yep, 5 actors who could pull off just announced Rambo reboot in 2016. So you may get your wish. Maybe it won't happen, but it's in the works. I feel like we haven't talked about anything specific.
How long have we been going?
Oh my god, 40 minutes.
Okay, I've got something to talk about.
Okay, please.
So I would love to see a diagram of the geography of Rambo's stealth kills. Mm-hmm. Like he kills like 6 people in a row by like ambushing them, but weren't they like moving in a group? So is he starting at the back and then each guy is wondering like where the guy ahead of him went, or is he picking off the guy in the back and then just hauling ass and then getting the next guy and then running back? Like the logistics of this would just be nuts.
Plus, he is like hiding in underwater caves and dragging people in by the ankles and covering himself in mud like he's Peter Malark, and like he's like he's predatoring them.
Yeah,
he's hiding in trees. Like, yeah, how is he getting around?
I would just love a map.
He's a big, loud, I would imagine, guy.
Yeah.
So when you get to Bowie, Arizona, there's a map.
Okay.
It's on the wall. It's like one of those.
We gotta check the internet and see if there's a map of like the geography of Rambo stealth kills.
Yeah, because all it would take is one guy being like, "Hey, I see you. You silly goose. Get out of there.
I'm not saying it can't be done. I just want to know how.
Oh, I'm
Or
pretty
maybe
sure
that's
it
the
can't be done.
training. Yeah.
Like the mud crawling and all of that stuff. Like, I mean, I get that his thighs are impressive, but it just made me tired. So tired.
That's how you get ripped.
But the Russians are back. We're not a fan. I thought that this movie totally held up to 2018 eyes in terms of the effects looking good still, as you said, the story being believable, Rambo being Sylvester Stallone. Like, I thought it was great, and I'd never seen it before. But I think it holds up. I would recommend people watch it. How many exploding arrows to the head out of 10 do you give Rambo?
I'd give it a pretty good number. I'd say 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I'd do 8 also.
Not 8.5.
I don't know. I'm going to give it slightly less. I'm going to give it 7, I think, just because for me, it didn't ring any like nostalgia bells.
Right. And then there's a huge factor in that. I mean, I was not, let's say, as like, gripped as some of these other movies we've seen while watching it, but just kind of like thinking back on it and just in terms of entertainment value.
Yeah.
I
had to
and
rewind
it is what it
several
is.
times.
Like, it's not, it is proudly whatever it is. It's,
How many Rambo movies are there?
There are 4.
What happens in any of the other ones?
Okay, so the first one, and there's no franchise yet for the first one. That one is probably objectively better. It's not like...
So that's First Blood.
It's not rah-rah entertaining.
Brian Dennehy.
Yeah, it's him versus Brian Dennehy.
He's the evil sheriff. So it all takes place in a small town.
I've seen that.
Yeah. And so that's much more about all these stealth kills where, like, the sheriffs are going into the forest and he's trapping and grabbing them because
and he puts a knife on a thing that swings.
Yeah, it's a lot more kind of
Like
like these mechanisms.
He's like MacGyvering.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, is that why he goes to rock prison?
Yeah.
Because he killed all those men?
Because he shot up a whole town. He
he
literally
just
shot up the whole
destroyed
town.
But they were bad. They were racist. What was...
He was a vagrant, and it was like the way that like you had all.
It was like police brutality versus this kind of like this killer who couldn't unkill.
Okay, that ties directly into my deep cut recommendation, so I'm glad. And then, so what happens in all the rest of them?
On the third one, that one was...
That's Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, and he's working with the Mujahideen to repel the Russians.
He hates the Russians.
And he has to rescue Troutman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only one.
This time it's personal.
That's the only one that isn't that good. The book is still good, and it made me think like, wait, I need to go see the movie again because maybe it's like actually good. No, it's still bad. And then the fourth one, it's
like back to back of when you remember when Stallone came back and did Rocky like 20 years later, and then he did this Rambo.
Oh, okay.
So this was only like what? How many years ago was this one?
I think it was 10 years ago.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and I think he's just living his sort of. I mean, maybe he's happy, sort of like just kind of his pathetic. Like I think he's like a boat captain or something.
He's got a hobby.
Just not much going on. I think that's in Thailand
and Burma.
Burma, yeah. And then he apparently he kills like. Did they keep track of how many people die in general, or how many people he killed? But there was like. Nathan looked something up to where they keep track of. We tried to keep track of how many people are getting killed in the Rambo movie we watched, and we stopped after like 3.
After he killed 2 boatloads of people, literally 2 boats. He had murdered 2 boats.
A literal boatload
of people. 2 of them.
I love it.
But so it was like 75 people died in that one.
In Rambo,
either from him or just in general.
I think it was under Rambo Kills, but it could be it could be slightly.
And then it was like almost 4 times that for Rambo 4, which I didn't quite remember.
It was in the 200s.
Yeah.
We're desensitized now. You got to kill a lot of people to get anyone's attention these days. So what is your deep cut recommendation that we've already talked about?
Yeah.
So that's the book by David Morrell. I mean, he's written other books, and. Yeah, so
would you read the cover blurbs?
The most dangerous man in the world, is back.
What does the top one say?
That The novel by David Morrell, best-selling author of First Blood, from the screenplay by Sylvester Stallone and James Cameron. Yeah.
So he wrote the novel, and then he was hired to do the novelization of the second movie.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, he died in the first one in the novel.
Rambo?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, there was
Seems likely to happen.
Yeah. I mean, there was no franchise anything. He was.
It's kind of like Jurassic Park 2, like the book. It's like, I didn't want to write a second one, but they're paying me a dump truck of money, and
So here it is.
oh, guess what? The island's okay. There was another island, even though we like nuked the first one or something.
Well, in the end of the first Jurassic Park book, they do show that the littlest dinosaur is getting to another island.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they just eat corn.
Yeah.
And that's how they defeat their lysine contingency. And your recommendation is the cartoon?
So, yes, mine is the cartoon. Let's see if we can read any of these.
I just love you have to let me photograph the covers.
Oh,
because
yeah. When the world's in trouble, there's only one hero who can come to the rescue. Rambo. Join Rambo and the Force of Freedom as they team up in these 11, that's just in this one disc, 11 fist-flying episodes to tackle mayhem. Pirates, gangsters, and evil dictators can't stop Rambo on his mission to save liberty in over 300 minutes of freedom-fighting adventure.
I like the idea that that's like where our generation might have learned geopolitics. Like, well, Rambo said this.
Yeah,
Snow raid.
There he is right there, helping some kids.
And then,
Let's see this one.
oh no,
All right.
he's fighting a punk in the...
All right. Join Rambo and the Force of Freedom as they travel to lands of snow and ice to fight injustice. Robots threaten peace. Children are in trouble. Santa has been kidnapped, and only you and Rambo can save the day. Experience over 300 minutes of icy hot action.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
That sounds like a good night.
It does, yeah.
Over 300 minutes of icy hot action.
And one of the episodes is just him rubbing icy hot into his sore muscles.
But just for 100 minutes.
He's fighting some sort of punk rocker on the
Yeah.
with a tank. You know how
Yeah,
punk
this is
rockers
probably a
have tanks.
Russian right there. Yeah, let's see. Face of Freedom. Join Rambo and the Force of Freedom as they team up in these 11 classic action-packed episodes and over 300 minutes of liberating adventure. Rambo uses his smart speed and strength to go anywhere the innocent need a protector. Find out what freedom looks like in Rambo, Face of Freedom. So it looks like he's going to like European countries and liberating them. Like the picture is like a tank coming over a hill as he's fighting like a punk, and there's a castle in the background.
Wow, I love it. So my deep cut recommendation is it's also a series of books, and I'm going to recommend the Jack Reacher series by Lee Child, because it's also somebody who's just gigantic and infinitely capable. And like basically the plot of one of them is that he ends up in a small town, and they're like, "We don't want your kind here," and he's like, "Oh, is that right? I'm going to kill everybody then," which sounds pretty similar to Rambo. So yeah, I recommend that. The books, not the movies, because the books are great. And the movies are ridiculous, and not in a fun way. Like, have you seen them?
No, I haven't. This is
That's
the Tom
good.
Cruise Jack Reacher.
This is the Tom Cruise Jack Reacher, where it's like Tom Cruise is a tiny man, and like the whole point of Jack Reacher is that like he's supposed to be like a John Cena sized gigantic man. So read the books. All right. Any closing thoughts?
This has one of the Rambo movie has one of my favorite moments, action hero moments, where it's just not realistic at all, but it transcends reality. It's just like, well, I just want that to be what actually people can actually do. I mean, Die Hard 2 was like that, but the part where his helicopter is down and the evil Russian guy, bad guy from Beverly Hills Cop, he's about to blow him up. Rambo's playing dead or unconscious. He can't tell when the guy's going to put his finger on the trigger, and then he's like, "Well, I gotta wait until it happens.
It looks like Rambo fell asleep while flying.
God, I hope his finger's on the trigger now. What if I'm like a second late and I'm just boom? But
yeah, the moment the Russian puts his finger on the trigger, then Rambo springs to life and then fires a bazooka through the hole in the glass that's in front of him.
And it's just so much better than reality. It's like, well, screw reality. I just want something like that to happen, you know.
It just gets crazier and crazier.
I feel sort of bad for the pilot in this movie, the guy who's the evil sensei, Karate Kid.
Cobra Kai.
Yeah, because I just feel like he never figured out what to properly do. You know, in the cinema world, he couldn't cut it as a sensei. Mm-hmm. You know,
keeps getting kicked in the nuts.
Yeah, got a junk shot at the end of this one, and he was a cop in Last House on the Left. He wasn't that helpful or anything. So I just hope he found something, that he could excel at.
He lives in Bowie, Arizona, and he runs the Rambo gift shop. And, all right. Well, Logan, where can people find you and all of your Powell glory?
Nathan,
I see hot action.
I see hot action. Bum, bum, bum.
VoyageTrackers.com, is that where? Yeah.
So Logan's great at social media and promoting our show. So Logan was in 2 seasons of our web series Voyage Trekkers. We also did 10 episodes of anti-smoking PSAs for the state of Arizona,
Which are great.
and then just recently we did a half-hour TV pilot, which we're taking to film festivals. I'm actually going to LA next week for, but he's kind of the star of that episode. It's kind of about his character, Commander Powell, who doesn't want any responsibility, kind of being in charge of the mission.
Yeah,
So.
kind of a big deal.
Of course, you can find Nathan at
SquishyStudios.com or VoyageTrekkers.com and all the social medias.
coming soon to a film festival near you. And also coming soon to Bowie, Arizona, where we're opening a side business. And you can find me at nctphoenix.com or at the actual National Comedy Theater if you're in the Phoenix area and you take a road trip up from Bowie. You can see me live and on stage. So exciting. And also be sure to do all the podcast stuff that you have to do. Like, rate, review, thumbs up. Leave us a review and we'll read it.
Oh, yeah. So if you leave us a review on iTunes or what are the other podcasts?
Stitcher.
Okay.
Stitcher has a function where you can do that. Stitcher and iTunes, basically, are big ones.
I'm sure that's a thing. We'll read your reviews online.
Yep. So make it funny. We'll read it back to you. All right. Thanks for listening. And remember, when you're out there in the world, keep the most excellent podcast motto in mind. Be excellent to each other and...
Mission accomplished.